Hey, Cypher here. So I think I've had my fill of films from 2016. It was not a good year to begin with, but it kind of shaped up in the stuff that slipped by during Oscar season, a lot of which ended up sitting in my queue for later. Now that I've gone through a good chunk of 2016's output, I think I'm going to do something I haven't done before, a top 10 list. I see you guys in the comments asking me to make some sort of ranking system, like this movie gets a C- historically and a B+ entertainment-wise. I just don't think of films in that way. Plus, I'm actually using the movies to explore popular culture's tenuous connection to reality. But I can say which films are better than others. So this year, let's put last year in perspective. I'm going to list 10 movies in ascending order, and why I think of them in this way. But this really is two parallel lists. One is the best 5 movies of the year, and the other is the worst 5. Denial deals with a historian who was sued for defaming a Holocaust denier. The movie mostly sticks to reality.
I opened the letter, and it informed me that David Irving was bringing a libel suit against me in the United Kingdom for calling him a Holocaust denier. But here was the problem. British law put the burden of proof on me to prove the truth of what I said. We didn't prove what happened. We proved that what he said happened, and by extension, all deniers, is not true. What they claim, they don't have the evidence to prove it.
It does make the protagonist seem whiny and miserable.
You know why he chose Auschwitz in the first place?
Why he chose Auschwitz? Because
Yes.
everybody heard of it.
No.
Because of its emotional impact.
No.
Because, I don't know, what are you getting at?
No, because it wasn't built as an extermination camp. It was built as a labor camp, and
I
then
know
it was
that.
modified.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know
but
that.
that's why he's going after it. It's a battering ram into a much bigger subject.
But from what some fact-checkers have said, it sounds like she's quite happy with this portrayal. But I certainly don't want to draw that conclusion. The problem is, it does make this film somewhat difficult to watch, despite its noble goal.
It's clear that they have led him to prostitute his reputation as a serious historian in favor of a bogus rehabilitation of Adolf Hitler and the dissemination of virulent anti-Semitic propaganda.
The 2016 version of The Birth of a Nation wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great when it needed to be. With such a pretentious title, you can't make these kinds of mistakes. It shows the Nat Turner Rebellion in too favorable a light, trying to avoid depicting the problems of it, and then demonizing the US Army for no apparent reason. You can't usurp a horribly inaccurate film with another. The Deepwater Horizon disaster could have easily been filmed as a moral lesson on how evil BP execs destroyed the environment, but mostly it managed to avoid unnecessary vilification. There's a little of it, but not anything worth getting upset about. Plus, the finale is just plain fun. Bryan Cranston tried to return to drug-related stories with The Infiltrator, but with a dud of a film. Every fascinating thing about this story isn't put into the movie, and every fascinating part of the film is an outright lie. This movie is about an undercover agent who uses elaborate social hoaxes to catch international money launderers. Yet the movie decides to forgo the entire story and just make it up as they go along. You had one job, movie.
Well, it's still a pretty good ending.
No. Not at all. Somehow Mel Gibson managed to not screw up Hacksaw Ridge. It takes the challenge of Desmond Doss's refusal to bear arms in combat.
Well, I'm sorry, Sergeant. I can't touch a gun.
Your ego's writing checks your body can't cash.
And manages to show the man's heroics with a nuanced lens.
But I also feel like my values are under attack.
If one of them attacks you and some wounded soldier, what are you gonna do? Hit him with your Bible?
It has some problems, but they aren't horrendous or distracting. Hidden Figures tried so hard to be an inspirational story about important black women of the early space race, and it manages to do nothing but hide its own premise. It amounts to fan fiction, but it is a fairly innocuous subject. The problem is that it duped people because of its inspirational identity politics, that ultimately render the movie tepid and ridiculous once you know the truth. All the Way was a pleasant surprise from HBO. They took an already good play and put it to a film that dives deep into the psyche of Lyndon B. Johnson's tumultuous first year as president.
What? I can't hear a goddamn thing you're saying, Humphrey. Come on over here.
It's necessarily selective with its subject matter and does better in doing that than I would have expected. Michael Bay simply cannot do history movies. In 13 Hours, he shows that he also can't do politics. Without an ounce of research into the numerous separate investigations into the 2012 Benghazi attacks, he pushes a defunct narrative onto what could have been a good action flick. It tries to hide the political meaning behind the action.
Something about street protests, anti-Islamic films.
We didn't hear any protests.
But with so many references to air support...
Air support?
Some air support.
Air support?
Air support.
I could use some air support.
Bay just had to pound his ignorance of the situation into this film.
Victory.
You probably guessed what I was picking as number 1. The Founder was awesomely well done. It perfectly straddles the line of demonization and glorification of the beginnings of McDonald's. Somehow it makes what could easily have been boring exposition into fantastic character studies with the most entertaining dialogue of the year.
So that's our story.
And of course, Oliver Stone strikes again with Snowden. This is another abomination where he tries to use history as a bludgeon and fails miserably. Whether you think what Edward Snowden has done is good, bad, or indifferent, this film will do nothing but distort the truth in order to have you believe Stone's malicious conspiracy theorizing. It bores the audience to tears with its incessant narration that is only there to preach Stone's poorly formed ideology. And that is my list of the top 5 and worst 5 of 2016. I haven't seen all the films from that year. Here are the ones I still need to see. Now, I'm only including ones that were available in the US, either as a full theatrical release or on Blu-ray and streaming services in the United States during 2016. There are quite a few, but it's difficult to get a hold of everything and find time to watch all of them. Also, here's a list of everything I have seen in ranked order. The rankings are of course arbitrary, but I hope you guys get why I did it this way from my explanations. Also, there are these that I just call the ugly section, because they weren't necessarily bad historical storytelling, but man, they were just bad storytelling in general. If I haven't reviewed one of these, and you'd like to see a full review, let me know in the comments.